Okay, so all these papers, this mess of papers, is to put together a little flip book for trigonometry. So I'm going to show you how to put it together since I'm going to be absent at least the day some of you watch this. So what I want you to do is place the papers so that you see trigonometry flip book, and then kind of lined up right under that the word sine. And then on the other paper, you're going to have to flip your papers over a little bit, cosine. So they're all lined up that way. And then flip it over and fold that down like that. And we have that really cool stapler that you can staple in the crease, but I don't have it over here, so I'm not going to show you that right now. All right, so before we really talk about trig, I just want to give you a couple things that are super important to remember. One, your calculator must be in degrees. The default setting on your calculator is not degree mode. The default setting on your calculator is radian mode. So I want to show you how to do that. When you first turn on your calculator, you're going to hit the mode button right here. And if you look third thing down, it says radians. You do not want that. For right triangle trigonometry, we're playing with degrees. So as soon as you turn it on, hit mode, go over to degree, and press enter. Now it's in the right mode to do trig. All right. A couple other little reminders. We're talking about only right triangles for right now. And trigonometry is the study of angles in a triangle, and or the relationship between angles and sides. So we're going to pick one of the angles to start with. So pretend we're standing there. The side opposite, so you're standing here looking across, this is the opposite side from this angle. This is the adjacent side to that angle. And this, as always, is the hypotenuse, the one across from the right angle. But if we change perspective and we go over here, and we're standing on this angle, that changes this to opposite and this to adjacent. But it doesn't change the hypotenuse because the hypotenuse is always across from the right angle. So that's some important stuff that you need to know in order to pursue trig. Another thing that's super helpful is to memorize this little acronym, I don't know what it's called. SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA is to help you remember what the relationships are. And you can see it down here, SOHCAHTOA. All right, and was there something else I was going to say? No, okay. This relates angles to sides. So we'll be able to figure out angles and figure out sides together where we have not been able to do that before. All right, so sine, you would write sine, and then this little thing, it's called theta. And theta stands, it's like a variable you can use for angles. We're going to stick x there and other things there, but theta is the one that's, if you see it, that's what it means. It's a variable for angles. Sine is the relationship between the opposite side and the hypotenuse. All right, so I'm going to show you how that works over here. This says we want the sine of angle A. So here's angle A. We want the opposite side. So from here, opposite is 12. And the hypotenuse, 13. So the sine of angle A is 12 over 13, opposite over hypotenuse. But if we switch over, now we're standing at angle B, that changes. Now the opposite is 5, but the hypotenuse is still 13. So this is a trig ratio. The sine of angle A is 12 over 13, but switch to angle B and it changes the ratio. All right, so we're going to be doing two things with sine. We're going to either be able to find angles or find sides. When you find angles, if you put this little -1 there, that's going to help you remember how to find angles. All right. So the hypotenuse, I'm just going to highlight the hypotenuse on each of these. It's just across from the right angle. So they're always in different positions. That's why it's good to focus on that right off the bat. Since we know from this angle we have the opposite and the hypotenuse, we're going to use the sine ratio. So we're going to put sine x because the angle is an x. And the formula up here says sine of an angle equals opposite 9 over the hypotenuse 14. In order to get your calculator to show you what the angle measure is, we're going to actually use the inverse sign. And we're going to put next to it the 9 over 14. And that's going to tell us how many degrees. So I'm going to press on my calculator. Second, and then sine. See sine right there? It gives us that negative, and I'm going to type 9 over 14 and press enter. It tells us 40, pretty much 40. So x equals 40 degrees, which means this angle is 40 degrees. We could figure out this one now because the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So 40 plus 90 plus 50 would be 180. All right, so we're going to find angle again. We have from this angle, we have the opposite side and the hypotenuse. So this is sine. Sine x equals opposite over hypotenuse. Because the x is here and we're looking for the angle, we're going to use the inverse sign and put our sine ratio in there. Going back to the calculator, second sine, 31 over 38. 54.7. So that is 54.7 degrees. All right, and again, you could figure out this, if this is 54.7, we can figure out this one using the triangle angle sum theorem. To find sides, we're going to use that same formula, sine, but the formula says we want sine of an angle. So we're going to do sine of 41 equals opposite x over the hypotenuse 17. All right, so you could put this over 1 and cross multiply. So we'd have x equals 17 times sine 41. This is the way people write it. This is the best way to write it. Put the coefficient in front and the angle is stuck to the sine. Since we're not finding an angle, we're not going to use the inverse sign. We're just going to use the sine button. So 17 times sine and then the angle, 41. So it tells us that that side is 11.2 units long. So basically your calculator is doing most of the work if you know the relationship. All right, so go ahead and try to set up number 6 on your own, and then after you have it set up, check it with mine and I'll show you the rest. All right, hopefully it's already set up. Sine 73, sine of the angle, equals opposite 29 over x. All right, so we're going to cross multiply. We get 29 equals x times sine 73. We want to get the x alone, so we're going to divide by sine 73. And just type that into your calculator. 29 divided by sine 73.